Johnny Lightning car, the number 2 car, is probably one of my favorite cars in here. My partner Vel and I won the Indianapolis 500 with that particular car, with Al Unser driving in 1970, and we led 190 of the 200 actual laps.
Al's Johnny Lightning rolls onto the track. To win the pole, all he has to do is keep on doing what he's been doing.
We were on the pole with the quickest time at 170 miles an hour average at that time. Really dominated the race.
The checkered flag, the speed 170.221. With a field of the best drivers waiting, it remains to be seen if this speed will hold up for the pole position.
That car was a derivative of a 1968 four-wheel drive Lola. It was designed by Eric Broadley, very famous race car designer. Was brought over by George Bignotti, who I worked for at the time.
His car was built by George Bignotti, who engineered A.J. Foyt's 1961 winner.
Vel and Parnelli came in and talked to Al. They made a deal for him to drive Parnelli Jones racing team, and so I was next in line. They came to me. I didn't want to lose Al. Parnelli and Vel were pretty smart. They did a good deal on me. We made a deal. I sold them my car. We used that car for the following year.
His advisor is Parnelli Jones, the 1963 500 winner and car co-owner with Vel Miletich.
When we took it over, we kind of picked up a lot of the design, the same, and added some of our flavor to the car.
In 1969, we had finally figured out all our chassis problems and what were the weaknesses and so on and so forth. And the car really came alive. We won several races with that car.
Seemingly without effort, the speed climbs to 171.3 miles per hour, unofficially. Ironically, it's Joe Leonard, his teammate, whose record of 171.9 he seeks to break. Leonard established this in a turbine car in qualifying for the 1968 race.
Also in that year, we built another Johnny Lightning car, number 15, for Joe Leonard to drive, because he was contracted to drive the 2 500s that year. Even though Joe was extremely competitive in the 1970 Indy 500, he made a slight mistake in the fact that he accidentally cut the ignition switch off, but didn't realize it, and fell out of the race.
He had these big racing gloves on, and it hit the switch and killed the engine. And he didn't know that he had hit the switch.
Later, when we found out what the reason was, Vel and Parnelli felt so bad for Joe that he was allowed to race at the Milwaukee 150 the next weekend, and justice was served because Joe won that race, and we were all very, very happy for Joe. Consequently, we changed the switch position from the right-hand side of the dashboard to the other side of the dashboard, whereby that would never happen again.
First, Johnny Rutherford moves to the front, but only for a moment. Al Unser takes command. The car runs good.
Parnelli was a man that knew what it was like being a race car driver. He didn't let you lack for anything on the car. And Vel was a neat gentleman. He just was a great car owner that loved to win. He was a great big gentleman.
One is the Johnny Lightning. The first year we won it, which was really a thrill, and we're just restoring the car. It had a number 2 on it, and we won it. And that's the one that I told you about, that we led 191 laps. The only time we didn't lead is when we were in the pits. This is a little explanation on the car, and there's Al Unser sitting in it. Really a super car. These both were, and we won them 2 years back to back. We won it the third year, but we ran second and third. And we would have won it 3 years in a row.
That's everybody's favorite. You know, that was my dad's favorite too. And you know, my dad loved Al Unser because he was easy on the cars.
Al Unser first qualified at Indianapolis in 1965. Since then, he has established one of the most impressive records in racing history.
I love racing. People here now are just understanding what we're doing and what racing is all about.
Al actually was my favorite driver.
49 laps down, time for the first of 3 scheduled pit stops. Al comes in for a total of 43 seconds. Here for the record is a winning pit stop complete. The seconds seem to drag as fuel flows into the tanks. but actually only 40 seconds elapse from pit entrance to pit exit. Unser starts out again, passing by Johnny Rutherford, also making a routine pit stop.
We put together a good combination and really was very dominant.
The checkered flag is out for Al Unser. His Johnny Lightning 500 special has gone the distance. It's a tribute to the man who built the car, to the man who taught Al Unser winning strategy, to a whole family of racers who gave him the background and courage he needed out there alone on the racetrack.
Every day at Indianapolis, we were the fastest car. We sat on the pole, won the race, 192 laps out of 200. Won several races, won the championship. It was an excellent car. It was easy to work on. It was my favorite car because I was a car chief on that car. I could take it apart and put it together in my sleep.
To that obscure crewman who had the nitpicking job of seeing to it that every little bolt was tight, every nut was in place. For from such small details comes success.
Sometimes you get ugly cars that win, but in this case, we got a very beautiful one to win. That car was the first car that they built from scratch, and it won the national championship and it won the Indy 500.
We had a great driver to drive the car. We were extremely successful with the Johnny Lightning car in 1970, and as I said, it's my all-time favorite car.
Al Unser has won the 1970 Indianapolis 500.
First of all, can you put your reactions to that great achievement into words, and are they any different than you thought they might be?
Well, Jim, I really don't know if it's really true yet or not. I'm so excited right now that I think it'll probably take me 2 or 3 days to really get a hold of myself, and Parnelli and my wife keep telling me that I won it, so maybe I can get over it.
Sitting next to Wanda is the last man able to win the pole in the race on the same day. Owner of the car, Parnelli Jones, congratulations again.
Well, thank you. It's really a pleasure. I'll tell you, it's just as much fun winning as a car owner as it is a driver.
You know, that being my first win as a car owner, certainly we come back in 71 and won as well. That being our first win really made an impression and made me love that particular car.
'71, we came to the Speedway with another Johnny Lightning car and won the race again.
The defending champion, Al Unser, brother of Bobby, celebrating his 32nd birthday today. His car owned by former winner Parnelli Jones.
It was a very good car. It was very similar in handling to the '70 #2 Johnny Lightning car.
We went back and rebuilt the car. We took, again, the same suspension and built the body design a lot slicker.
Now you see Al Unser really moving up on Peter Revson, and Joe Leonard staying right with him. Now Al Unser and Joe Leonard are teammates.
Here we are. He's going to use his draft here trying to get past. He should make it after this. He's done it. He's done it. He's passed him.
There's a subtle difference between the Johnny Lightning #2 and the Johnny Lightning #1. First of all, let me explain why the #1 is on the car. The #1 is on the car because we won the USAC National Championship. It's extremely difficult to win a championship, so most people are proud to wear the #1. Now, the difference between the two cars are extremely subtle. The fuel capacity of Johnny Lightning car #2, the monocoque itself, didn't hold 75 gallons of fuel, which was the capacity at the rules at the time. We had to put a side tank on the car, a 15-gallon side tank. That got us to 75 gallons of fuel. There is a drawback with the side tank, and that is that you can't refuel the car as fast when the fuel has to go through a 15-gallon side tank, then into the main monocoque. So you actually are slower than a regular car that you can just put all 75 gallons in. So we decided that we would make a wider tub, wider monocoque section, make the car a little bit wider at the bottom to keep the weight down. We made the car more pear-shaped. We didn't have an engineer or designer at the time, so we decided, how are we going to know that when we design the wooden ribs that the aluminum is shaped around, how are we going to know that that's going to hold 75 gallons. So I took my best educated guess as to what 74 gallons actually would look like in a tub. And I don't like to, you know, I'm not bragging or anything, but I got to tell you, first time hit it right on the nose. 74 gallons. But that's how we designed cars in those days. Seat of the pants.
Plus 10 means that Al Unser has a 10-second lead at the moment over teammate Joe Leonard.
Pit signals are very important at any race, Jim. This keeps the driver fully informed of everything that's going on. It's interesting to note that the leader has a radio in his car, Jim, back to his pit, which is a great way of communication.
Just a one-way, though, I think, Jack. He can talk to them, but they can't talk back to him.
And here's someone else come into the pits as well.
Al Unser.
Al Unser's in, yes, the leader. Now, Al Unser's team are particularly good. George McNaughty's one of the fastest men in the business.
The Johnny Lightning car was sponsored by a company that made toys, and they were very happy. In fact, I remember the owner came into the garage area and gave me a Rolex watch.
Again, we're back at Indianapolis. Al Unser is leading the 1971 Indianapolis 500 as he did to the finish line in the 1970 Indianapolis 500. Trying for a repeat performance here, something that nobody has done in 17 years. That's when Bill Vukovich Sr. did it.
When we got to the Speedway in 1971, we realized right away, right out of the box, before we even got to the track, that we should probably have done a little bit more homework and maybe looked at the rules a little closer in regards to aerodynamics.
Al Unser has been running all month in the mid-170s. Consider that 10 years ago, 150 miles per hour was the speed barrier. Al's car owner and advisor, Parnelli Jones, is the man who broke that 150-mile-per-hour barrier back in 1962. Al's mechanic, George Bignotti, turned the wrenches for Foyt's first win in 1961.
Now, we qualified at 170 miles an hour plus in 1970. Before we even got to the track, they were running 175, 106, 177 mile an hour, and we're thinking, whoa, where's that coming from?
Then Peter Revson springs his little surprise. 178.696, a new record.
So when we got there, we were already behind the 8-ball. We couldn't get any faster than 173, 174 mile an hour, and that was poor Al just hanging it out. So we knew we were in trouble.
And right now, Al figures that a speed of 174.622, which earns him a second-row position, is a good place to start out for a second 500 win.
What we had to do was make sure that that car was not going to let us down during the 500-mile race, and that we would practice our pit stops so we could be the best pit crew.
So here's the leader, Al Unser. Hard to imagine when a car is cruising this nicely, this apparently effortlessly, Jackie, the trouble can occur, and yet so often it does in the world of racing.
As it turned out, there were faster cars in the McLarens, with the McLaren factory cars, and Roger Penske's McLaren were way faster in our car. But they had mechanical trouble.
I think it's a mechanical trouble, Jim, because he's still running all right. It must be a mechanical trouble.
And they all dropped out except one.
Cars dropping out at a pretty high rate. I have 18 cars left on the track now, Jackie, out of the starting 33.
Peter Revson was in the last McLaren, but no knock against Peter, but Al was a much better driver than Peter Revson, and not only that, he had a lot more experience at Indianapolis. He was just better. He saved a lot of time coming into the pits and going out of the pits by coming in faster and going out faster.
We've got a car coming into the pits. In fact, it looks like the leader. I think it's Al himself. He's coming in very fast. The entrance speed is very important here.
And our actual pit stops, wheel stop to wheel start, were faster than anybody.
And this is a scheduled pit stop for Al Unser. Everything right on schedule so far for car number 1. The winner of last year's race and looking more and more like the possible winner this year.
It turned out that the margin in the race of the elapsed time between Peter Revson and Al Unser was the time spent in the pits.
This looks like a very cool Al Unser now. He must be watching the whole scene at this time. Oil pressure, water temperature. He must be very nervous about the car's reliability of these closing laps, Jim, because a racing driver at this time is a very nervous man, particularly if he's won in Indianapolis before and he's running for a second win.
And there's the white flag for Pat Moran. 1 lap to go for Al Unser.
Again, it was a team effort. Al was fast coming in the pits and going out. We were fast putting the fuel and tires on the car.
The checkered flag. Al Unser has done it. He has won his second Indianapolis 500.
Al Unser of Albuquerque, winner of this year's Indianapolis 500. Congratulations, Al. You did a fine job. How tough a race was it for you?
Well, Chris, I tell you, it was a lot harder than it was last year. We knew this from the standpoint of what Donahue and McLaren's cars were going to do, and of course Bobby and A.J. Foyt. We knew that everybody was going to be running a lot faster than we did last year, so we knew that it was going to be a hard race.
After the race, we'd run it the rest of the season in '71, and it became obsolete. The rest of the cars that caught us and passed us.
The car wasn't as fast, but it was reliable, and we won the race. And that is another one of my favorite cars.
Al Unser has just joined a very select group of men. Those that have won the 500 back-to-back. Maury Rose, Wilbur Shaw, Bill Vukovich, and now Al Unser. The average winning speed of 157.735 is a new record for the 500.
Your car was meticulously prepared. Did it give any trouble during the day?
None whatsoever, Chris. That car just performed beautifully thanks to George Bignotti, and of course Charlie DeBucchi was the engine man on it, and the whole thing. Jimmy Dillemarter was the chassis man, and there's just not enough words I could say that could describe how things went today.
Vel and Parnelli had now won first in 70 and first in 71. They were pretty happy.
The 1972 Samsonite Special #1 was the first of our designed cars by a true race car designer. It was called the VPJ-1. We built 4 cars. We had 2 Viceroy cars. One was driven by Al Unser, the other driven by Mario Andretti, and the Samsonite car driven by Joe Leonard. Joe Leonard won the USAC championship that year driving the 72 VPJ-1.
He also won the California 500.
And he won a couple other races with it. He was very consistent, and he won the points championship.
Joe Leonard, the defending United States Auto Club champion and winner of the California 500, wheels onto the track in the first of Parnelli Jones' team cars. In 4 fast qualifying laps, he turns a new record average of 185.223. That's almost 14 miles per hour faster than his 1968 pole winning speed.
That car, along with the 2 Viceroy cars, had a lot of teething problems. The designer, Maurice Philippe, a very brilliant man and a really nice man, was a stubborn British mentality where, you know, we were still swinging in the trees over here in America, and they knew everything about everything, and including race cars. The team brought John Baldwin and Maurice Philippe over to Phoenix in 1971 for the last USAC championship race, where they pompously walked up and down the pits and poo-pooed every car that was there, and they could build a better car and so on and so forth. And John and Maurice declared unequivocally that if they couldn't build a better car than the cars they saw at Phoenix, they would row themselves back to England. Well, we built the cars. To say they were a little bit slow was an understatement. So we finally got the car out on the track, and it was probably, I'm being generous here, but it was probably 20-something miles slower than the other cars. And our previous car, by the way, the 71 car. One of our fabricators, who was in the meeting about the rowing incident, brings an oar, and he nails it up on the designer's door. So when the Maurice came in Monday morning, there was an oar conveniently nailed on his door. Eventually we fixed the problem. The car was actually the first car we ever wind tunneled as well. And the wind tunnel showed that there was good possibilities about the dihedral wings that were on this car originally, that they might be able to work. And by speedway time, we had taken the dihedral wings off because the drivers were not comfortable with them. They felt like there was always another driver like right next to them, number one. Number two, they were dangerous in the fact that if the car ever hit the wall, there were oil coolers in there. And oil in a race car runs 200, 220 degrees. And should a line burst or a oil cooler break, it might soak the driver. So that was dangerous.
And so, with time already short, the decision is made to remove them on all 4 cars.
We decided we better get rid of those. We'll develop those maybe another time down the road. Let's get the car working with the front and rear wings like a conventional race car, which we did. And we were very successful.
Joe Leonard makes his first routine stop of the race. He's been running in the top 10 since the start.
Indianapolis 500 in 1972, with Al Unser driving, the number 4 car finished second, the number 1 car finished third, and Mario Andretti in the 9th car, I think it was 8th.
On the track, Mario Andretti, the 1969 Indianapolis winner and 3-time national champion. His qualifying speed, 187.617, another new record.
And he would have been much higher than that, but he ran out of fuel on the very last lap.
And Mario Andretti, well, he was still moving at the end, but he was coasting out of fuel.
Joe got in a big wreck at Phoenix, terrible wreck. And he came out without a scratch because the car was extremely strong. It's a triangular shaped tub, and a triangular shape is very strong, and that car is extremely strong, and it probably saved Joe's legs at the time from that accident. Joe did win the championship that year, so our team now, 70, 71, and 72 had won 3 consecutive championships, which hadn't been done in the USAC, United States Auto Club, for a long, long time, if ever. But I'm pretty sure no one ever won 3 straight championships before.
Well, like I say, we had 3 of them, you know, and they all have your heart and soul in, you know, each one of them. And that happened to be one of our standout cars.
Unser is back on the dirt the day after finishing 9th in the Ontario 500. Unser is running first.
First of all, in 1970, to win the championship, which we did with the 2 car, but you also had to run the dirt at that time. So you had to run the dirt that was part of the championship. So we'd have 4 or 5 races every year on the dirt, and then the rest of them were obviously on pavement and road races.
The dirt is where my dad first saw Parnelli running. And one of the things Parnelli has told me for years is you learn how to drive on pavement, but you learn how to race on dirt. That stuck by me.
Al Unser gets ready for the practice session.
When Vel and Parnelli bought the dirt cars from George McNaughty, well, my dirt car, the Johnny Lightning car, didn't have power steering in it. And Parnelli's looking at it one day and was standing there, and he asked me, he says, "Why didn't this car have power steering?" I says, "George won't put it in." Oh, he got that George McNaughty, and he says, "I want power steering in that car now." And it was the next race. And then, boy, and it was the world of difference with power steering.
Mario and Bobby have a little time to kill before time trials. Everybody fires up. Mario has just turned in the fastest time. Mario will start on the pole in today's race. what a way to start the day.
You know, it's all about winning, you know, and those are the fondest memories. And, you know, the two, I think they were Watson chassis that Al and I had, you know, with a Ford engine, those things were ready to win. And it was between Al and I, really, because he won the championship one season, I won it the other season, and we were 1-2, and then we just reversed it.
Mario and Al are first and second on lap 1. Mario still leads. Al overtakes Mario on the outside.
I won all the races in '70 with the dirt car, and that's the last year that ever happened. USAC took the dirt cars out of it, so consequently it ended, you know, the dirt car championship, but yet they came back later and we still run the dirt cars because I loved them.
Al and Mario pull away from Wells. Mario is making one last charge on Unser. Only a few laps left, and Mario would like to win this one. Andretti regained the lead, but Unser takes it back.
Anyway, so our dirt car we built and was a Johnny Lightning car originally. Over a period of from 1976, 5 or 4, something like that. Anyway, we ran 21 races with that car and won 13 of them, including the championship. We also built the second one for Mario, and they ran 1-2 in the championship the last year we run them.
Andretti is content to ride in second. Al heads for the checker. Mario second, Dixon third. Win number 8 this year. Mario listens as his car owner, Andy Granatelli, rehashes the race.
Like I said, for me, it's all about winning, and those cars were right.
I always said if any car in here made us money, that one certainly did.
Race promoter J.C. Agajanian presents Al with the winning trophy. Al presents it to his team, and everyone is happy.
In '72, Vel and Parnelli built what they called a dihedral wing car with Maurice Philippe as the designer. And then there was Mario Andretti, Joe Leonard, and myself as teammates.
But Al has within his grasp the chance of a lifetime to be the first 3-time consecutive winner in history.
After we'd won Indianapolis in 1970 and 71, we built 3 of these cars similar to this here. One for Al Unser, which is this car, and one for Mario Andretti, and one for Joe Leonard.
New race cars start their high-speed life under the watchful eyes of mechanics and designers.
Well, we hired Maurice Philippe when we went to Formula One. We needed, he'd come from Lotus, and we had a lot of respect for the design of Lotus.
He was a great draftsman. I mean, he could draw blueprints up so pretty that it was remarkable. But he made some mistakes. He thought dihedral wings on the back would do it, and I said, that isn't going to work.
His car, like those of his teammates, was designed with futuristic V-shaped dihedral wings by Maurice Philippe for the Parnelli Jones racing team. A combination of airfoils and the dihedral wings produces high-speed stability. But somewhere, at least on Al's car, 10 miles of critical top speed is missing.
I says, when you go in the corner, it's going to lift the car, and he won't be able to go through the corner as fast as he would normally. So, well, they didn't pay no attention to me, but when we got to the speedway, that's exactly what happened.
We showed up to the track when we had the dihedral wings on the car, and we didn't really get a chance to sort them out. We weren't running that great.
And so, with time already short, the decision is made to remove them on all 4 cars. The change is immediate and startling. Speeds climb.
The car wasn't any good. hated the car. And Vel said that was the most beautiful car he ever built. Well, they spent a lot of money. Is the only reason why it was pretty.
Al Unser circles the track in Parnelli's third team car. At 32, he has already accomplished more than most racers do in a lifetime. His lap speeds all in the 183-mile-per-hour bracket, but at this point he is very happy to settle for 19th starting place.
Maurice Philippe wasn't one of my favorite designers, but I still stayed with Vel and Parnelli because they were such good car owners. They really wanted to win, and they did everything they could to make cars and the crew to keep you winning.
There are 21 spots left, and Mark Donahue of Newton Square, Pennsylvania, claims one.
Roger Penske sat on a pole with Mark Donahue, blew about 5 or 6 engines during practice and stuff. In the last minute, we sold them one of our engines, and they wanted to win in the race, and we finished second and third with our cars, and this car finished in second.
Al Unser pulled in. His chance to become the first 3-time consecutive winner in Indianapolis 500 history is gone. Soon he learns that Grant's disqualification down to 12th place has put him into second.
It really worked out well. I mean, we ran real well. Like I said, we won the championship with him. We also went on Joe Leonard with another car just like this one, went on to win the championship. But could have won Indy 3 times in a row. We would have been a little bit smarter.
Is the Superlight Lotus, which Colin Chapman has designed around a modified Ford engine, and which Jimmy Clark, world champion, will drive. Some say this English Lotus is the future of 500 racing.
Well, the Lotus here, the green Lotus, really came to Indianapolis in 1964 with Jimmy Clark, and Lotus with a factory-backed Ford sponsorship.
The car was driven by Jimmy Clark to the pole position in 1964.
Mr. James Clark, Jr. of Scotland, has blended a new track record on lap number 2, 159.377.
They sat on the pole with the fastest qualified, Jimmy did.
The front row is set. Clark, Marshman, Ward. The pace car pulls off the track into the pits, and the race is on. Clark shifts into high gear and jumps into the lead. Parnelli Jones inside second row charges right after him.
Anyway, the left rear suspension broke during the race.
They were using Dunlop tires versus the Firestone tires that they had used the year previous.
Jim Clark takes over first place. Clark has a 6-second lead over Jones and Foyt.
And unfortunately, the left rear tire threw a tread.
Something's wrong. Clark is scraping along with his rear wheels splayed out.
The tread was too thick, built up a lot of heat.
His rear suspension gave way and collapsed.
The thread flew off, broke the suspension, so Jimmy was out of the race.
So after the race was over, they asked me to drive the car Ford because I was pretty much contracted with Ford as well. And they asked me to drive it in Milwaukee, in which I did. And I went up and set a new track record and won the race with it. I drove another Lotus just like it. It was a Dan Gurney car. Jimmy Clark wanted his, and I went over and won the race with it. And so after that race was over, Ford turned around and gave me this car. And we painted it a different color and took it there. And of course, Jimmy Clark won in a new car in 1965, and I fortunately finished second with this car by a prayer. Anyway, another story. But after that, I also went and took it back to Milwaukee and won again with it.
The car was badly damaged in a accident at Langhorne, Pennsylvania, and it was ended up on top of another car, and it was bent like a banana, and it was also a big fire, and a lot of the instruments and things were ruined. One time when one of the guys, the shop foreman, was cleaning out the shop, he decided that thing had to go, so he put it in the dumpster. And somehow somebody, I don't know who it was, somebody came along and said, "What are you doing putting that in the dumpster? We got to save that car." Well, anyway, out it came in the dumpster. It was put upstairs and was stored for 25 years. Vel decided that it was time to start restoring some cars. So that was the first car that we did a full-on restoration. Obviously, all the credit has to go to Vel for that, because I guarantee if it was my choice, I would have thrown that thing out 30 years ago, but it shows you what I know.
He took me around his museum in Torrance, and then he let me sit in his Jimmy Clark car, which was really special. And then he couldn't get me out of it. I just sat in there forever. A really special night to do that with such a legend, and to see his cars and everything he's done and achieved, and he's so humble about it. But you know, he's Parnelli Jones. It's like, he's a legend. From then on, every time I see him, we have a good chat, and he's the nicest guy. I wouldn't have wanted to race against him, mind you, but he is the nicest guy.
So it has a great history and a great feeling. Built very light, very fragile, and probably why the suspension broke.
It's a piece of history because it was driven by two of the greatest race drivers in the world, Jimmy Clark and Parnelli Jones.
The number 9 car also is a sister to this car, and when we first went to Indianapolis, we had the dihedral wings on there. But the object was, if you went to the Indianapolis and you looked down on the cars from the first corner up in a grandstand, you'd see, even though they're understeering a bit, the back end is still hanging out. And the idea with the dihedral wings was, when the back end hung out, you decreased the load on the left side and decreased the load on the right side. And that was the object of that.
Like children taking first steps, new cars roll onto the track. He may be 5'6", but here he is 10 feet tall.
We brought in a designer from Lotus, Maurice Philippe. You know, we just let him do his thing. However, we paid a little bit of the price because he was not as familiar as he should have been, you know, with our type of racing, and he was not taking advice from our chief mechanics, who were not engineers, but they were good. So that combination could have been better.
Mario Andretti remembers his fiery crash of 1969. He wears fire-retardant clothing. His helmet and car, like those of his competitors, has been certified after exhaustive tests and inspection.
Because we weren't running real quick, the drivers also didn't like this. They felt like there was a car there. And if we'd been running real fast, they probably would have liked it. But evidently we were a little bit off a pace, and so we went and took them off and went back to the conventional setup.
The fact that aerodynamically the car did not really respond the way that Maurice Philippe thought it would. And the dihedral wing became just not a very good project. The closer we went to the standard on the aero package, the better the car got.
We ended up taking the wings off and putting a regular wing on the back.
On the track, Mario Andretti, the 1969 Indianapolis winner and 3-time national champion. His qualifying speed, 187.617, another new record.
One thing about racing, you know, week in and week out, you don't have a lot of time to go way off experimenting with stuff. I think that idea had a lot more merit than we gave it a shot at.
The cars are pushed from Gasoline Alley to the track. There is nothing now but the race.
Maurice didn't understand IndyCar racing. He put the front shock absorbers to one point in the center. The rear shocks were against the transmission. After 10 or 15 laps, they would warm up and they weren't working anymore. And the front wasn't holding, so the car was rocking.
I credit George Bignotti by getting rid of the torsion rather than this regular spring over shock, over dampers, then that was going back again to more of a traditional mechanical side.
I remember we had breakfast one morning, Vel Miletich and Parnelli Jones and I, and we were talking, and I said, well, I think that I'm done as far as your mechanic, because you've taken the chassis away from me, you took the engine away from me, and I says, you really don't need me anymore. And Vel and Parnelli pounded their hand on the table and says, you gotta fix them. And I said, okay.
The closer we got to the traditional, the better, the car became. And the car ultimately was really a nice car to drive, but not at the beginning. Actually, at the beginning, it was quite a disaster.
Donahue, Revson, Bettenhausen, and Andretti behind it.
At Indy, at the beginning, with the dihedral wing cars, we had issues with that, but Joe Leonard was motoring on. He was, at least he was finishing, and then he was putting together the points, and he wins the championship. For some reason or other, Al Unser and I didn't have that luck, but regardless though, the fact that we were competitive, I think, was very important.
Andretti, now refueled, is ready to go also. It's a drag race all the way to the first turn.
Andretti was a great driver. I mean, he was one of the best.
That's actually Mario's car. Mario drove, but when we restored it, we thought, well, why don't we just put the dihedral wings back on so we can explain what we've done with the car.
There are a number of top-ranking teams in United States Auto Club competition. One of them involves 4 500 winners. Mario Andretti, 1969. Al Unser, 1970-71. Joe Leonard, 1972 Pocono 500. And Parnelli Jones, no longer a 500 driver, but still involved as a car owner with his partner, Vel Miletich.
Well, the number 11 Viceroy car here in 1973 set a closed course world's record with an average speed of 214 miles an hour around Texas Speedway with Mario Andretti driving.
You can imagine that Maurice Philippe also gained some more experience, and when they designed the next car, it was more traditional, and I think it had a little better aerodynamic package in the balance.
Next to take the flag, Al Unser's teammate, Mario Andretti, former Indianapolis winner, a 3-time USAC national champion, and now a 9-time contender for the 500. His speed, 195.059, puts him close to the front of the starting field.
This car here, a number 11 car, was driven by Mario Andretti, and it held the closed circuit record by it was 214 miles an hour. That was a big square type car designed by Maurice Philippe.
Dan Gurney's Eagle, driven by Al's brother Bobby, was a faster car than our car simply because they could put more boost in their engine. It wasn't the car, it was the engine. Well, one day at our shipping dock, a turbocharger showed up in a box, and it had Dan Gurney All-American Racers on it. The person delivering it from Garrett got Parnelli Jones and Dan Gurney mixed up. Well, naturally, we're going to open the box and see what's inside it. Well, we opened up the box, and right away we see, whoa, the turbos were much bigger, had much more capacity, bigger turbine blades and everything than the ones we were being given. So we put that turbo on an engine that we had on the dyno, and we gained like 100 horsepower. So we knew right away, well, there's where a lot, I won't say all of it, but a lot of the results were coming from with the speed increase. It was the turbocharge. Now we were fairly even, and the 73 car, which is VPJ2, set a world speed record at Texas World Speedway in 1973 of over 214 miles an hour on a 2-mile track, which is pretty impressive.
This car doesn't have a lot of downforce, but if you notice, it has awful large wings on it. And that's how we got the downforce, and with 1,000 horsepower, that's how we were able to run quick.
That car, I thought, felt quite good and very competitive right from the outset. And as you can see, on the super speedway, especially like in Texas, when we set the record of 214 miles an hour average, that was huge, you know, because we had no ground effects, you know, just surface dynamics.
Starting to get more and more into aerodynamics, because if you go back to the turbine, you see that even Lotus at that time was trying to get more downforce, and that car's shaped like a wedge, and that was to get more force with a long nose. And of course that car's a four-wheel drive well, so it had to have a long nose to help get that force. Believe it or not, at 150 miles an hour, they would literally run upside down. Of course, the ground effects cars, which come after this car, you know, have a wing foil underneath, which creates a vacuum under the car. And if you put your hand out and rub it on a smooth surface, you have a certain amount of friction. And if you push down, try rubbing it, it don't want to slide. And that's basically what the ground effects does.
The drivers are drivers. They want to be competitive, especially Mario Andretti and Al Unser, Joe Leonard, who had just come off a win. And, you know, we just won 3 straight championships. And now we were down on the speed charts. What's wrong here? The common thread to that was the design. And the drivers were complaining that it felt that there was a lot of movement in the chassis, that it was flexing and so on. And the drivers were very rebellious and said, we want them shortened. It's our butts in the seat. We decided that the chassis was indeed flexing and that we could solve the problem by shortening the actual monocoque.
That was pretty exciting in those days, you know, especially how quick he run. And I can remember feeling like the ground was shaking when he qualified.
On the average, the car was a very good car, and so that was the last year that we built our own car that actually raced, was 1973.
But if you look at that car, it looked right. You know, it just it looked like it was a good package. And again, you know, I love driving that car.
We're going to talk about the 1971 PJ Colt, which was number 15, Samsonite car, driven by Joe Leonard. The car was a sister car, if you will, to the number 1 Johnny Lightning car that Al Unser was driving and won the Indy 500 with. The only difference was essentially the colors. It was painted a real bright yellow and had the suitcase numbers on the side. It was a very attractive looking car.
Of course, you can learn a lot about your engine on a dynamometer, but there's only one place to test the whole package. That's on the racetrack at high speed.
The car was very competitive, and Joe was a very, very good driver, and he was very, very consistent.
Joe Leonard held the pole position in 1968, and in the race that followed came within a few laps of winner's circle. His car, like Al Unser's, is owned by Parnelli Jones and Vel Miletich. His speed of 172.761 is faster than the record set in 1968, and the third row looks pretty good.
Joe was more than competitive. He was all Al could handle.
Again, we return to the Indianapolis 500, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Indiana on this May 29th. The leader, Al Unser, in car number 1. Joe Leonard is 2nd. Lloyd Ruby is 3rd, and Bobby Unser is 4th. Joe Leonard into the pits, the 2nd place car. He has a luggage sponsor, kind of looks like a Le Mans suitcase in front of his car there. It's a piece of equipment you have to have in the 24 hours of Le Mans. Here's the timing on Joe Leonard's pit stop, the 2nd place car behind his teammate Al Unser.
Joe led for several laps. It was a seesaw battle for a little while.
From the 67th lap till the 118th lap, a duel between teammates makes history. The lead passes from Al Unser to Joe Leonard and back again.
Joe was very good, actually. Joe should have won Indianapolis. He was leading the race.
The green flag comes out as Joe Leonard pits.
He leaves behind a cloud of smoke and coasts slowly around the track.
As fate would have it, the turbocharger failed on Joe's car. Consequently, he dropped out of the 1971 Indy 500 when he had a very good chance to win it.
Joe Leonard into the pits again. Joe Leonard, this could be a problem this time. Let's see.
He seems to be telling them something, Jim. There's a bit of communication going on. The mechanics, George Big Oly, doesn't quite know what to do. They're looking at the turbocharger. A lot of smoke coming out of it, puffing of smoke. I think this looks a bad sign, Jim. George Big Oly doesn't seem to have a great deal of urgency on there.
Well, there he had a chance to win Indianapolis. He was right out in front.
His turbocharger failed, and now the hope of the Johnny Lightning Samsonite team rests with Al Unser, who leads with his brother Bobby in close pursuit.
Joe Leonard is just out of the 500. What was the trouble, Joe?
Well, actually, Chris, we re-improvised, but it was the same thing that happened at Trenton. The turbo wheel, I guess, just won't take the abuse, so we're going to have to do something about that.
Do you think you could have won?
Well, obviously, I think I could have won. That's why I was here, and I guess the Lord just didn't pick me to win this year.
Al finally basically took over and essentially won the race.
Here we come, though, to the checkered flag for Al Unser.
Joe won the USAC championship that year with that car. He won Ontario 500 with that car. Consequently, he got enough points to win the championship. All in all, the number 15 Samsonite car for our team was a very, very good car.
In 1973 and 74, Mario went to Firestone and wanted to put together a Formula One program because he wanted to do Formula One.
I had driven Formula One, before, and I had won in Formula One before, so I know what I needed to have.
Firestone decided, okay, let's do it. So we built the cars. And we ran the whole season in 75 in Formula One. We actually went over and bought a garage and a shop and sent Jimmy Delamarter over there to run the program.
Vel and Parnelli decided to go into Formula One and built an American-built Formula One car, which in effect, that's very rare.
Everybody was really high on our cars because we built them here in America, and we at that time we had better welding, and they used to braze stuff and build stuff a little crude compared to what we did. And when we showed up with our cars, they were in awe, so to speak.
This car, the number 27 Maurice Philippe car, did not start out well because his ability at that point was like at least 2 years old.
Unlucky Andretti soon hit trouble. He explains what went wrong.
What happened? An oil pipe burst for some reason or other. Oil pipe broke and then it caught fire.
Where did it happen? Where were you on the race course? Did you have far to come?
Oh, I did a couple of laps. I could smell it. And, but, I was trying to shrug it off as long as I could,
Again, we had to get closer to standard as far as the settings, and here again we had to go to coil over, damping in the back rather than torsion bars and all that.
Anyway, we ran the whole season. We led some races. About the time we finished the cars, Firestone decided to get out of racing. So Vel and myself, my partner, and I, did the thing on our own ticket. And of course, Firestone had paid us for building the cars. We tried to keep going. The following year, we didn't have enough sponsorship financially to keep going, so we ran the first race in 76 in Long Beach, and then I had to pull the plug.
It was not a very good beginning, but as the season went on, we obviously got better and better. There was a race in Spain, in Barcelona, where I could have won that race because I went right to the front and the rear suspension link broke.
Lap 14 of 75, Andretti slows down as Parnelli.
He retires after a suspension failure, a bad day for the American who had just taken the lead.
I was clearly gone. At that point, we could have had a victory, and we had some, you know, a couple of fifths, I think fifth place finishes, which was much more encouraging. Again, I think we did okay. The first year was respectable. Certainly was not what I was expecting.
We released Mario to go drive for Lotus, in which he wound up winning the championship. So Mario certainly was capable, and you know, of there, if we could have just stuck around, I think we could have won the championship.
We're going to talk about the 1968 Lotus 56, which is a turbine-powered car. It was a very aerodynamic car because of its shape, and it was nicknamed the doorstop because that's what it reminds you of when you look at it.
Joe Leonard of San Jose, California is curious about a machine that runs with a whoosh instead of a roar. And Joe Leonard decides that he likes the turbines. He goes faster than he has ever gone before. And winning hope begins to grow in the heart of car owner Andy Granatelli.
Actually, it was owned by Andy Granatelli when he ran at Indianapolis. The year before, I almost won in Andy's car as well. And with 3 laps to go, it quit.
However, they are members of the Andy Granatelli entry here, and the other one is doing very well indeed, thank you. Car number 40, out in front.
Certainly is. He's extended his lead rather considerably.
Now there goes Gurney, about 4 seconds. And here's AJ, he's about 9 seconds behind. And now where's the rest of the field? Gives you an idea of just how these first 3 cars have begun to dominate this race. We continue to see the dawn of a new era here in Indianapolis as the turbine-powered car, driven by Parnelli Jones, moves out to a most comfortable lead over the rest of the field.
Last year, 3 Granatelli brothers watched their world come to an end as Parnelli Jones coasted slowly to a stop in the 196th lap. But right now, the sun shines again in Indianapolis. Their turbine is on the pole, and Joe Leonard has taken a big step into the future.
I must tell you that I wasn't too happy when that car showed up at Speedway because I was a piston engine guy, and I work for a piston engine team, like regular racing motors, not jet engines. The only reason that I had any feeling for the car was that it was shod by Firestone tires. And we were a Firestone tire team as well. So no matter what, we had to stick up for Firestone tire team. So frankly, that was the only reason that I would ever cheer that car on.
1 turbine, 2 turbines, and now 3. Art Color makes the field.
Other than that, I hated it.
A fast, exciting race. Yes, that will come in a moment when the green flag drops. But right now, the sight of 33 individual steps into the future, traveling in formation at slow speed, is worth all the headaches that brought them together.
We always had some problem, but it was still difficult with these cars to keep the brakes on them. Brakes were your best friend because when you had the engine, it's a Pratt PT6 helicopter engine, so when you had it spooled up, and you backed off of it, it was still accelerating. So you really had to use the brakes not only to slow the car down, but as well slow the engine down. So it made it really difficult for the brakes.
There is no downshifting. There is no like in a diesel truck, a Jake brake, if you will. There is no compression. So what happens is you let off the gas and nothing happens. The car just keeps moving ahead at the same speed.
Unser and Leonard have moved ahead of Ruby. Graham Hill is 4th. The
few laps later, Graham Hill loses a wheel in turn 2 and hits the wall. One turbine is out.
What was interesting about the turbine was that it had, only 550 horsepower, which was low compared to the piston-powered cars. So it was funny, people thought Parnelli was sandbagging when he would drive because they would catch him on the long straights, but on the corners he'd be going flat out and he'd smoke them. And it was because it had 550 horsepower that had 1,000 pounds of torque.
Leonard takes advantage of his teammate's misfortune in turn 2 and comes in for his second fuel service in the race.
You couple that torque to four-wheel drive, because that's what you needed to get the power to the road, and four-wheel drive was allowed in Indy at that point. And you had a car that could basically go flat out in the corners, which the other cars couldn't, and the piston-powered cars. And so over the course of a race, it would dominate.
Joe was out first, taking the lead. While Leonard leads, Bobby Unser is second.
Because it was a jet engine, there was no maintenance engine. The chassis guys could work free to work on the car, unrestricted. There was no engine problems. There was nothing to worry about there was no transmission. It was a simple car.
This other car here, the 60 car, is a turbine designed by Lotus with an airplane turbine engine in it. They outlawed this car, but this car, Joe Leonard held the pole for about 4 years. It was the fastest car. He led most of the race, most of the winter, just like Parnelli in that other turbine car. He dropped out with about 6 laps to go.
And was leading the race somewhere around 12 laps to go, and the yellow flag came out. When the yellow flag came out, they slowed way down, and Andy had made a deal with Standard Oil to run gasoline instead of the jet fuel. And on the yellow flag, it froze up the fuel pump drive, and when the green was dropped, that thing wouldn't take off and cost the race.
At the start of the 192nd lap, the green flag comes out and the incredible happens. Joe Leonard accelerates, but nothing happens. The turbine engine dies, and the car rolls to a stop in turn 1 as Bobby Unser sweeps into the lead.
Only circumstances prevent it from winning the Indianapolis 500 in 1968.
Andy Granatelli is stunned. This is the kind of a nightmare which can happen in broad daylight. Car quits cold in turn 3.
The cars were running 1 and 3 with just a few laps to go, and they each fell out on consecutive corners.
1, 2, 3 turbines qualified. 1, 2, 3 turbines went out of the race.
That car fell out on the first corner, and the next one fell out on the second corner, and Bobby Unser won the race for the hated Goodyear tires.
Firestone, who financed the thing, paid a great deal with Andy, wanted to run the car the rest of the year. And so they needed me to go along and do the chassis setups. I said, well, I'm not going to work for somebody else. They want to give me the car, we'll run it. And I wound up taking Vincey, Andy's son, for a chief mechanic, and he and I became great friends and had a great relationship. I still have a great relationship with Andy as well.
My name is Vince Granatelli, and I'm here to talk about this 1968 Lotus turbine. This Lotus turbine was actually the second generation turbine, the first being the side-by-side construction car that Parnelli Jones drove in Indianapolis in 1967. Came within 3 laps of winning the Indianapolis 500. Able to sit on the pole in Indianapolis in 1968. Again, leading most of the race in 68 and failing to finish with 12 laps to go with a fuel pump drive shaft that was broken.
But anyway, we dominated the races everywhere. Qualifying, we were up front, just new track records and everything else. Never won a race. Well, this year, not just a couple of months ago, we took the car to Goodwood, England for the Goodwood Festival. And we run the car up the hill, made 6 runs with it. I made 5 runs with it, and Lord March made 1 run with it. Again, that's when you realize that the brakes are your best friend, because it's a road circuit and you certainly have to back off in several turns. But Indianapolis is a little different because you can run a real high-speed cornering, so you don't use the brakes that much. But when it came to a road course or a small oval where you really use the brakes, it was really tough on that particular car.
We're certainly glad to have the car in our collection. It's a historic car. It did set 2 track records, one at Hanford, California, and one at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The 63 Watson Roadster that Parnelli won the Indianapolis 500 in was really a car that was built in 1960.
Built in Glendale, California. That's where the hotbed of building race cars in those days. And A.J. Watson was the person that was building it.
It's a beautiful car, and you know, it's brings back a lot of memories. And you know, in Indianapolis, that car I ran 4 years at Indianapolis.
But the search continues, and the practice speeds grow faster. Parnelli Jones, last year's sensational rookie, tops 148, then 149, and in one magic moment, almost breaks the 150-mile-an-hour barrier. Leaping to the track from the pit wall, car owner J.C. Agajanian applauds his new threat to the track record.
My father really had a special relationship with Parnelli Jones. Parnelli was a great talent, a young talent, a natural talent. And in the old days, don't forget that the championship title was not only on pavement like Indianapolis, it was also on dirt.
Now each driver is on his own for 200 laps, 3.5 grinding, deafening hours. From his pole position, Parnelli Jones takes the lead. The field begins to string out with Parnelli widening the gap. Setting a sizzling pace, he roars on far ahead of the others.
My dad would contract with Watson and say, I want a new car this year to race in the Indy 500, and Watson would design probably 5 or 6 or 8, depending on how many orders he got, and they were all almost identical. In ours, we changed the front end a little bit, the body work, so it was more aerodynamic, and that came about from ideas that Parnelli had. It was nothing like today. Today, it's a black art. It's you have to be in the wind tunnel and all that.
He increases his lead going down the main straight, and he's way out in front at the beginning of the second lap. His pit crew signals he has a 6-second lead. His car owner, J.C. Agajanian, tense but happy.
To understand by stories that my dad has told about this kid he saw slopping around in the dirt, but winning. He said the other guys were spinning out, they were hitting the wall, they were tipping over, they were getting upside down, but Parnelli was able to adjust to the terrain, he was able to adjust to the weather, and he was winning. And he said, that was really when I saw talent in him, and then of course he saw him running in person.
Where you take Parnelli, I mean, he was a man that could get in anything, didn't make any difference. When he sat in that thing, he made it go fast. You know, I had always admired Parnelli because of that. He was such a talented race car driver. He's just a guy that once he fastened that seatbelt, you were going to have a hard time outrunning him.
Lloyd Ruby drove the car in 1960, and then Parnelli drove in 61, 62, 63, and 64.
Was Rookie of the Year the first year in 61, led 27 laps, could have won the race if it hadn't lost a cylinder, and come back in 62, set on the pole, the first one to run 150 miles an hour around Indy.
Parnelli Jones believes records are made to be broken, and he qualifies at a new record speed of 150.370 miles per hour. His fantastic run showed all 4 laps in the 150-mile-an-hour bracket. He's the Indianapolis hero of the day, and the newspapers, anticipating his top qualifying speed, headline him as the man to beat. Then the green flag sends Parnelli on his way again, full speed ahead. He leads the others back into competition.
And dominated the race, was long gone, lost the brakes.
And it looks like Parnelli is in trouble. He's running without brakes and gliding down the pit apron. He can't stop. He bounces over wheels and tires in a frantic effort to slow down, then scrapes into the pit wall to stop. He's been running without brakes since the 76th lap.
Wound up coming in and not really planning on going out, but I wound up making 2 pit stops without any brakes or brains.
And Parnelli Jones finishes the race without a sign of brakes on the car. His crew going crazy trying to get him stopped.
What I love about that car is just how absolutely dangerous it was. You know, they call it the world's largest tuning fork because, you know, you think about what makes a car safe. It's the cars fall apart, and, you know, as they're crashing and you get the crumple zone effect, you get the pieces coming off, that diffuses the forces. Well, when you crashed in those cars, all the force transferred to the driver and pulverized their bones into dust. So it was a very dangerous car in that respect.
For one thing, I mean, you know, you work with what you have. I mean, tires, if you notice, the tires are getting wider and bigger and more downforce and stuff. We didn't have those things. You know, the tires were very thin, and, you know, the traction was there. You had to back off in the corner, and the guy that could drive it the deepest and get back in the throttle the best, and that's how you made those cars handle.
Skinny tires, no downforce at all, no impact absorbing foam, any of that stuff as far as safety is concerned. I would imagine crashing a Roadster would be like sitting in a brass bathtub and somebody hitting it with a hammer, you know, just a shot going through. The only thing that was deformable, unfortunately, was the driver.
The form of the car was changed from the original Watson body configuration into a body that was very streamlined, much lower, had a much lower hood and cowl line, and it was one of the best looking Roadsters ever built. And it was affectionately called Old Calhoun.
The pace car brings the field up to starting speed. Drivers maintain their positions. 3 cars to a row, 11 rows deep.
And we made that car better every year. I mean, it wasn't always the same when we came back. We upgraded things on it. In fact, one of the things that we did when we lost the brakes, for an example, the brake line was run along and cracked an exhaust header, and the heat from the then loosened up the tape that was holding the brake line. Just things like that, little things, a little bit of luck. I could have probably won 4 or 5 times, but you know, it takes not only a lot of skill and good equipment and good pit stops and good people around you, but it takes a little luck as well.
The pace car pulls off the track, and the green flag is out. Parnelli Jones leaps into the lead.
You get to see a nice example of what racing was like before they went, right before they went to rear engine.
Parnelli Jones pulls even with Jim Hurtubise on the back straightaway, passes him on the turns, and regains the lead in the second lap.
It makes you see where we come from because, you know, the Roadster certainly was a front engine car and the tires were skinny and the drivers were fat.
The field begins to spread out, with Parnelli Jones steadily pulling away from the rest of the pack. Parnelli Jones is really charging. No one can stay with him.
Unlike other car owners that feel they have to coach, they have to tell, they have to have a game plan and explain, as far as I knew, Parnelli's plan was to stand on the gas. And if that meant being able to lap the field, so be it.
Then Parnelli Jones takes the white flag. 1 lap to go.
Parnelli's main objective was to blow them all off, and that included Mario and AJ and the Unsers, all of them. The pride of being able to beat your peers, not only to beat your peers, but to beat the best of your peers, ran deep in Parnelli. And nothing made him happier than to smoke those guys.
Parnelli Jones finishes the 500-mile ordeal in 3 hours and 29 minutes.
But I believe if somebody started to tell Parnelli what to do or how to do it, he'd simply say, I'm going to gas it, boys, and get out of my way.
Victory and riches await Parnelli Jones, who has won the fastest Indianapolis 500-mile race ever run.
Came back in '63, sat on the pole again, new track record, won the race, and came back in '64 and qualified 4th, I think. Leading the race, was having a pickup problem toward the end, and I made a pit stop.
Making a scheduled pit stop for fuel.
If you look at the way it's designed, where it has the the exhaust pipe going where you would fill the gas on the car. And they would put an asbestos sleeve over that exhaust pipe.
And his crew strains to get his tank filled and get him out. There's a man in a hurry. His fuel tank explodes.
Then my car caught on fire in the pits. They pulled the thing off.
Alcohol fumes on and in the car burn with an invisible flame. Parnelli scrambles out of the car and rolls on the ground.
The car is on fire and Parnelli is bailing out of the car in the pits. And it was because of that, because they went and they filled the gas and the fumes went into the hot exhaust and lit the car on fire.
So that ended that career of that car.
Well, I think the bravery of the guys who drove those cars, just wow. But they didn't know any better. But still, it was racing has been made safer. Racing on ovals, especially, is still very, very dangerous. But it's safer than it used to be.
Overall, I believe too that car was the best looking roadster ever built. No question about it in my mind. And I'm glad that we were able to build a replica car that represented that car so well. And if you had the two cars side by side, frankly, our car would look better.
Yeah, that's also a car I'm very, very fond of. Was the car that I won in Indianapolis.
What is the design that produced this great winner? Was it his superb driving? Was it the engineering know-how that gave him that extra power and speed? Or was it the teamwork that rushed him through each pit stop in record time? Right now, Parnelli doesn't know, nor does the crowd. They only know they have found a new champion of speed.
People who are ready to risk everything, try anything, anywhere, so long as it's on wheels, in the dirt. And the professionals are here. Legendary names like Parnelli Jones. Dirt. As unpredictable as off-road racing itself.
Well, Big Oly, I started driving for Bill Strop, and I'd won the stock car championship for him. He wanted me to drive the off-road deal in Baja race and Las Vegas stuff. And I said, no, Bill, I don't think it's my bag. And he said, well, he knew how to get to me. He said, you're probably not man enough. So that was like throwing a red flag. And I said, you get one of them ready. So he did at the race in Las Vegas. Of course, I went out and destroyed the car because I overdrove it. The guy riding with me, Ray Harvey, I said, if you think I'm running too hard, just tap me on the knee, about beat me to death. But when he got in that car, his personality changed 100%. I mean, he'd beat on me and tell me to slow down. There's coyotes out here. We don't want to spend the night. There's snakes and all that. And he'd beat me and he'd get me to slow down. And I needed that. He was a great asset for me in the car.
It was a tube frame car with a lot of shock travel, had a big wing for aerodynamic downforce, had a lot of tweaky things on it. Had a very reliable Ford engine, automatic B&M hydro transmission, beefed up everything. It was the forerunner of what they call trophy trucks today.
You had to have a cover over the top, so I figured if you have a cover over the top, you might as well make a wing foil out of it. And the wing foil houses two lights that pop out of the top, and also has a rear spoiler on the back, so you can adjust it so when we come over rises, you don't land on the nose. Comes over and lands pretty flat, and it does. That really works. And it goes 44 gallons of fuel, has two drinking fountains in it, so to speak. I mean, two containers of water. It has a windshield, sends the air up over your head, so you can have an open face without a windshield, but yet you're getting the airflow, a good portion of it over your head.
Parnelli, I think, enjoyed his time driving the car. He enjoyed the off-road experience. He enjoyed engineering the car to what he think would be the best thing to do. Him and Dick Russell would get together and draw stuff out and build it. And that kind of thing. It was, again, seat of the pants engineering versus CAD/CAM, Caltech designers. We didn't have those in those days. All that stuff came out of our head, and that car came out of Parnelli and Dick's head.
I wanted to win overall. I didn't want to just be a participant in a class or anything like that. I wanted to beat the motorcycles. I wanted to beat, and they were the ones that were winning all the races at the time, and they were so much faster than the cars. I had so much fun seeing this recreational thing that I was out there kind of doing it for myself and not doing it for really the money or a real sponsor or anything like that, even though Ford was sponsoring the Broncos. But I was at the same time getting the bug. Something so much different than I had been doing, and I really enjoyed it.
And here's a look out on the course now at Parnelli Jones, and he sure is moving. In car number 83, another Bronco. Must remind him of his old dirt track racing days. But this is a lot more rugged than those closed courses.
Anyway, so I got kind of hooked on it, so I went to the next race was 1,000. Well, I took it a little easier and made it about 250 miles down the course and broke the front end in it.
Once you stick one in a hole or bend the front end or blow a couple of front tires out or something like that, you're really in trouble.
Later that year, Strop had built a two-wheel drive Bronco and with an I-beam front suspension under it, and took the big heavy front end out from under it. And when I seen that, he took it back to Detroit to see if they wanted to build a cheaper Bronco. And anyway, they didn't want to do it, and they sent it back, and I said, man, that's what I want for an off-road vehicle. Anyway, so I won the 500 with it, my first off-road race, and I won. Well, when I did that, I knew exactly what I wanted in a finished car, and that was the results of Big Oly. So Dick Russell, who worked for Strop, I tried to get Strop to do this, and Strop wouldn't do it. He said, no, you're venturing away from Ford too much. And so Dick says, I'll build it in my garage at home, and when we get it finished, we'll take it up and let Strop put the engine in it. So anyway, we did that, and of course Strop found out about it and wasn't too happy about it. Didn't win the first race. We took off for the 1,000 the first year, got about 250 miles down, and there was a pit at San Ynez, and I'm sitting in the pits, and about this time one of these dune buggies goes flying by. One of the cars I had to beat was Drino Miller. He had a pre-runner that looked just like his race car, and these guys headed down there to pit him, and they pulled off down the road a ways, and I took off chasing, looking for that dust, trying to catch him. Driving over my head, got off the road and bent the rear end housing, put us out of the race. But I knew the next year, I thought, if I just got to use my head, slow down a little bit, I could probably win the race. Anyway, I came back the next year, and the record was 16 hours and something. And in San Nicolas, Nico Saad owned a hotel there. He'd always they'd get the officials after the 250, 300 cars would start. The officials would get in an airplane and they'd fly down to the other end, and they'd set up a pool. What was going to be the quickest time? So Nico asked me, he said, how quick are you going to do it? Because he always flew with them. And I said, I'm 15 hours. So anyway, he put down 15 hours, and everybody thought he was crazy because it was almost an hour faster than everybody else was putting up. Anyway, I did it in 14 hours and 59 minutes by a total accident.
Parnelli Jones and Bill Strop had done it. The Bronco had stood up against an incredible pace that had tamed the 1,000-mile course.
When I came into it, that was about the time it started getting a little professional. Then it was more of a recreational thing, really made it really enjoyable. Well, those days are gone. It's now very professional, flag to flag, so to speak. And even though the cars are handled better and everything else, I don't think it's nowhere near as much fun as we had.
In its day, that car was the car to have in off-road. And obviously, it was very successful. Parnelli won the Baja 1000 twice and the 500 once, and the Mint 400 in that car. He even broke the existing record to do the 1,000 miles. He did it in record time. Nobody had ever approached that time before.
That car has been very popular. I come back and won the 1,000 again the following year. Turned around, won the 500 with it, also won the Mint 400, and really dominated some of the races. And it was a fun car to drive. It had a short wheelbase and didn't know if it wanted to go straight or sideways all the time, but it had probably about 400 horsepower. Came into the last pit stop. It's about 120 miles or something like that to the finish line. So I figured that the 12 gallons that went in the left side, I mean, they motioned me on. I figured it ought to be enough to get me to the end. Well, I got about within 10 or 15 miles from the finish line. And I'm up on the mesa and I can see the lights of La Paz. But I'm sitting there and man, you talk about hurt. I mean, I'm walking up and down the highway and everything else. Finally, there was a little light coming and it looked like a bicycle light. And I didn't think it was ever going to get there, but it just finally creeped up there. Well, it happened to be two Mexican guys in a Volkswagen, and the belt had come off. So they had no generator or anything like that. But they did have a full tank of fuel. Thank God. Anyway, I always carried some money, and I pulled out a $20 bill and I gave it to the Mexicans. And I said, you got a bottle? And they had a bottle of tequila. Yeah, and back here's the bottle. And so I pulled off a windshield wiper hose and siphoned about 15 bottles of gasoline, kept pouring it in the car. Got enough to finish. After I won the 500, but I flipped it about 35 miles from the finish line. And it bent the wing and it had one headlight left. And my friend said, if that's the winner, I didn't see what the losers look like.
A very, very famous car. We're very happy to have that car in our collection. It's very sought after for off-road events. People want to look at it. We send it to car shows. Ford Motor Company is extremely interested in having that car for their collection, and we're just proud to say that at least it was part of the Vel's Parnelli Jones team for 2 or 3 years.
It's a fun car, and it's been back at Detroit, it's been to Florida, been to Knoxbury Farm on several occasions, made the SEMA show. Ford hung it on the wall one year. It's been a pretty popular race car. Well, I'm the kind of guy that don't carry much on my chest. You know, if I got something to say, I say it. In my day of racing, 60s and 70s, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think we've raced in the best of times.
Everybody knows what you're talking about. If you just say Big Oly, everybody knows instantly what you're talking about, especially off-road aficionados. I mean, they just love that car.